unplugged.com.
Good evening. I'm political editor Dennis Welch, and this is Politics Unplugged. And tonight we are talking water. Governor Doug Ducey has called for a major rewrite of Arizona water laws that could have big implications for water management here in Arizona, including use of Central Arizona Project water and the ability to move groundwater from one area of the state to another. Some lawmakers have also introduced new water bills, which are not always in line with what the governor wants. And joining us to talk about all of this today is what it means for the state and for growth here in Arizona is Kirk Adams, Governor Ducey's chief of staff. Thank you very much for joining us. And first of all, just what prompted the governor to make this an issue this year?
Well, over a year ago, the governor began hearing from various water stakeholders across the state expressing concerns that now was the time to revisit Arizona water law. So we've spent well over a year working with stakeholders to determine what are the priorities, what are the concerns, and what are the opportunities. And frankly, as the governor said many times, when it comes to water, we stand on the shoulders of giants. And it's incumbent upon this generation of leaders to do what we can to protect Arizona's water future.
And one of the key areas the governor is focused on here is ensuring Arizona's share of Central Arizona Project water, including how it is stored in Lake Mead. What are some of the specific concerns here in this issue?
So look, the hydrology this year, frankly, is not very positive. We have to be very clear-eyed about this. Our snowpack in the Salt and Verde basins are at 15% of the average. Just this week, the federal government said Lake Powell will only have 47% of its average inflows, and Lake Mead sits at only 40% full. When you boil down to what that really means, there is 8 feet of water left in Lake Mead before the first shortages are triggered. So that means we have to do what we can to conserve water in the lake, and ultimately that's the goal of the governor.
So boil this down for our viewers, and what does it mean for them that are watching this tonight? Why should they care about this?
As soon as the levels in Lake Mead reach 1075, Arizona will lose over 300,000 acre-feet of water. Now imagine what an acre-foot of water is. An acre of land, a foot deep, over 300,000 of those. That will directly impact much of our agricultural community first and foremost. So that's going to potentially have an impact on our economy. We take water for granted here in the desert. Arizona leads the nation in sound water management, and we need to make sure that we continue to lead the nation so our state can continue to grow and people can continue to count on when they turn on their faucets, there will be clean and plentiful water.
And just to remind viewers what the highlights, he hit some of these in the State of the State. He's addressed some of this before. Some of the highlights of what you guys want to see in this proposal.
Well, fundamentally, we must make sure that we have adequate consumer protections so that when you go purchase a home in a new subdivision, there's an assured water supply and your investment can be protected. Number 2, it's critically important that we talk about conservation, specifically conserving water on Lake Mead. The tool to do that is called forbearance. So the governor is asking the legislature to give him that tool so that water can be conserved on Lake Mead and either avoid shortages or mitigate shortages.
Now, you guys are wanting to move forbearance over to the Department of Water, Arizona Department of Water, correct? Now, how would that fix any drought situations?
So there's only one entity in the state, well, actually 2 entities in the state that can protect the statewide interest. That would be the state legislature, which is elected at 30 districts across the entire state, and the governor, who is elected by the state of Arizona. So there are 15 counties in the state, right? The Central Arizona Project Board of Directors is elected by 3 of those counties. So when you look at for the interests of the state as a whole, only the legislature and the executive branch, led by the governor, can best make those choices and decisions.
Okay, and I also understand that this is a key sticking point with negotiations with certain lawmakers down there, correct?
Yeah, folks, it's a complicated issue, right? And it takes some while for everybody to get their arms around it. But this is a legislative process. Senator Griffin and Representative Rusty Bowers are doing great work on this issue in providing leadership on water. And frankly, water needs giants. They need advocates and champions at the state legislature, and they're providing it. The bill isn't quite right yet, and we look forward to continue to work with them to get it right.
And from reports we've seen, there was a report that this negotiation with Representative Bowers, Senator Gail Griffin from southern Arizona, has gotten pretty tense. And I'm referencing one specific report where Griffin walked out of her office during talks about this water. Is there, what can you tell us about that?
That wasn't a meeting that I was involved in, so I can't speak to that specifically, but I can tell you all of our interactions, both with Representative Bowers and Senator Griffin, has been very amicable. Of course, there are some differences of opinion, but again, I stress, this is what the legislative process is all about.
Sure.
It's about finding common ground where we can compromise for the best interest of Arizona.
Sure. You are the Chief of Staff, so you're probably aware of the details of that meeting. What was the sticking point during that discussion where Griffin walked out on your staff?
Well, the sticking point for Senator Griffin and to some extent as well Representative Rusty Bowers has always been about this issue of forbearance, right? How do we conserve more water on Lake Mead? Look, there are well-intentioned people on both sides of this issue. Water has always been a complex and difficult issue in the state. It's no different now, but I have confidence that in time, everyone can figure this out.
Okay, we're talking about the Colorado River Basin and whatnot. Arizona's not the only state that draws water off that. California and Nevada. What, are they involved in any of this? What are they willing to give up? What are you willing to give them? What's happening here?
For the last few years, there's been a very important ongoing negotiation between California, Nevada, and Arizona called the Drought Contingency Plan. And in the draft form of that plan, for the first time, California has agreed to take water shortages in the interest of keeping water on the lake so that we don't meet those critical levels. This is why forbearance is so critical, so that the Drought Contingency Plan can be implemented and we can preserve the lake levels on Lake Mead. Now,
are the tribes at all involved in any of this, since they do control a lot of the water here in Arizona? And what does the governor want to see happen with that? What do the tribes want?
Well, that's a very important point. I'm glad you raised it because our tribal communities control almost half of the Colorado River water. They are a key player in not only the water, but the state as a whole. And what forbearance will allow us to do is for tribal communities to create what's called intentionally created surplus. This is water that they are using right now that they would choose not to use and keep it on the lake, thus helping the state avoid these overall shortages.
Okay, and again, again, another sticking point, another concern with certain lawmakers, particularly the ones we were talking about, is that developers may be able to find a way around some of these limitations and be able to get their hands on more water. Could you speak maybe to that?
Yeah, I think that's an issue of also of critical concern. And this is referencing what we call assured water supply or water adequacy rules. This means when you go buy a home in a new subdivision, that builder must receive a certificate from the Department of Water Resources that there's a 100-year assured water supply. We will not do anything that we believe undermines that important consumer protection.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for this complicated topic, but I'm sure we'll be talking about this more as this issue moves along. Obviously, an issue of great importance to the state. So thank you very much, Kirk Adams, with the Chief of Staff for Governor Doug Ducey. And next on Politics Unplugged, another issue that has captured the attention of both the governor and voters. Education for Arizona's families is the #1 issue, but what will it take to make progress? A closer look at the goals one group has set to help us move forward here on Politics Unplugged.
It doesn't discriminate who and when it kills. All this March, Arizona's family takes a raw look at the opioid crisis. The addicts.
I was a preschool teacher.
The devastated.
I will never watch him become the man he should have been.
And the conflicting ways some are trying to help.
Not only does it save lives, but it helps get people into treatment.
Original content on the crisis impacting Arizona and the nation. Arizona's family takes on the opioid crisis. All this March on 3TV and CBS 5.
Being hit while riding a motorcycle can be devastating. You'll have major injuries and major hospital bills. Hurt while riding a motorcycle? You know who to call. I'm attorney Kevin Rowe, and we'll fight hard to get you every dollar you deserve.
977-1900. Be My Valentine. Diamond hearts just $39. Half-carat diamond hearts $149. Diamond earrings just $69. And half-carat Valentine bands $299. Thousands of Valentine's gifts guaranteed to appraise for double. The Jewelry Exchange Direct.
If you're the victim of a car, truck, or motorcycle accident, you need to call Jimmy Cook with Cook Law for a free estimate of your case's value.
Insurance companies don't want you to call an attorney because they don't want you to learn how much your case might be worth. That's why we have attorneys standing by to take your call and tell you how much your case may be worth.
The call is free, so call Jimmy Cook right now.
Jimmy Cook, the car crash lawyer you pick. Jimmy Cook, call 255-0606.
Parenting can be tough. Throughout their lives, kids can face a variety of problems. The Boys Town National Hotline can help you put the pieces back together. The Boys Town National Hotline, keeping your family safe, strong, and together. Call 800-448-3000 or visit boystown.org/parenting.
Hi, we're here today with Tom Mello, owner of A1 Garage. Tom, why should I replace my garage door?
That's a great question. Most home builders install low-end garage doors. However, at A1 Garage, we transform your home with a new, beautiful designer garage door that will dramatically improve your home's curb appeal by up to 40%.
Great. So what makes A1 Garage different?
Well, for starters, we never use subcontractors. We have incredible customer service ratings, and we only use the highest quality products backed by the best warranties in the industry.
And right now, A1 Garage Door is offering a tremendous deal.
For a limited time, receive a free Whisper Drive garage door opener with 2 remotes and a wireless keypad installed with every new garage door purchase.
Call for your free in-home design consultation. Serving all of Maricopa County and Northern Arizona. Call 602-341-3906. That's 602-341-3906.
A1Garage.com. A1 from day one.
Wake up with a smile. Good Morning Arizona. Weekdays on 3TV.
And welcome back to Politics Unplugged. There is a new poll out on education and its importance to Arizona voters. And joining us now to talk about that poll and its political implications and goals for Arizona education is Christine M. Thompson, President and CEO of Expect More Arizona. And as we just saw with that last segment, there are a lot of issues facing lawmakers and the governor. But a recent poll indicates most Arizonans believe the #1 issue needs to be addressed before all others. Now, tell us a little bit about what this poll shows and what it means.
Sure. We do an annual poll of Arizona voters, and 42% of voters named education as the top priority in Arizona above others. Next in line was immigration, which was at 16%. And what's interesting about the poll is not just that education's the #1 issue for the 3rd year in a row, but that it's an even a wider margin than it has been previously. So it gained about 10 points over the last year.
Yeah, it also dug into a little bit more like the concerns for Arizona families when it deals with education. Maybe speak a little bit to that point.
Sure. Arizonans are very concerned generally about education. They're concerned about funding for education. 86% of respondents felt that teacher pay was too low. Over 75% of voters responded that they felt that funding for education was too low. So it's a top concern for Arizonans.
And what is driving those numbers right now? I mean, what else are you hearing from voters out there, and why this is the #1 issue?
Sure, they're concerned not only about what's happening in their classrooms, the teacher shortage and recruitment and retention crisis that we have, but also proficiency levels and growth of students that we have in our classrooms. So the Expect More Arizona had worked with the Center for the Future of Arizona and put forward a set of goals for the state, the Education Progress Meter, that we've been working with, not only to see where we are in Arizona, but to see where we want to go as a state to have a world-class education for all our students.
Now, is there any thoughts, anything that you're seeing too about the voters, what their thoughts are on the governor's plan this year to add some more money to education and try to wipe out some of those capital cuts that were made in prior years?
Sure, we didn't ask specifically because the poll was out. We ran the poll in December, so it was before the governor's budget was out. But again, the voters were very supportive. We as an organization are supportive of the governor's budget. It does invest a significant amount of money into those district additional assistants and charter additional assistant cuts. It invests in funding for joint technical education districts and literacy. But there's also some things that we hope in the long term we'll be able to address too. We need to look at the size of the pie and not just the money that we have now.
I know you're supportive of the governor's plan right now, but is it enough? A lot of folks have criticized this plan as that's something that really doesn't wipe out all the cuts, because we're still so far below, you know, the national, even just the national average in terms of per pupil funding, teacher pay. It would take billions of dollars to raise to those, just to the national average.
Absolutely, and it's not just K-12, right? We also have investments we need in community colleges and universities as well. It's the entire education continuum. So we really think that the governor's budget is a step in the right direction. It's not the end of what we need to be doing. It's a step, and we also need to be talking about renewal of 301 and expansion of that as well.
I was also going to add that you know, your organization's outlined some other priorities that aren't exactly you know, budget busters out there. Maybe if you want to go through some of those.
Sure. You know, we're very supportive of our university system, and the university system has put forward a plan to get to 50% of in-state student support from the state. We don't have funding for our two largest community college districts in the state. That's necessary. We have teacher pay. We'd like to move to the national median by 2022. That's $1 billion investment.
Yeah, I was going to say, how much money is that? Where does that money come from at this point?
Well, right now we need to have that discussion, right? So it's not going to happen in this legislative session. Just like the cuts took more than 1 year to be put into place, we need investments that are going to be made over several years. We need to have a healthy system. It's going to take us years to get to the goals that we need to get to. It's going to take a long-term investment.
Can you get that without raising taxes? Because this is a governor who will not sign a tax increase.
I understand that, and we're hopeful that at some point we're going to have a conversation about what 301 looks like, because not only do we have the expiration of 301 coming up, that's over $650 million.
Sure.
That's currently being paid by taxpayers. Our poll shows that 72% of voters believe it should be renewed for 20 years. That was the question that we asked. Another poll, similar poll, asked for a permanent extension and got very similar results. And then we need to look for the next level of investment. I think we're going to need to go back to the voters.
What are you being told? Why is there a stronger push from like the governor's office to put that on the ballot? Because anytime you put a tax increase for education, we've seen it usually passes with big numbers. I'm thinking about Governor Jan Brewer back in 2010, but with that sales tax increase, it was a temporary 1 cent increase during an election year, and it passed with flying colors.
Right, and it went to both education. That was during the economic downturn. It went to education and to public safety as part of those downturns. And we really believe we need to have a conversation. We haven't had everybody at the table to come to agreement on where we need to spend the money, much less what the sources should be like. So we need to be having those conversations, and you know, I'm encouraged that there's a couple of bills down at the legislature to have the legislature take the 301 piece on its own and have the legislature move that forward with Doug Coleman's bill and Kate Brophy-McGee's bill in the Senate.
All right, well, thanks a lot for stopping by. It's all the time we have for this segment, but we do have more Politics Unplugged up just ahead.
They were like death and un-American. Un-American. Somebody said treasonous. I mean, yeah, I guess why not?
Some would say it is loyal opposition. President Trump might call it treason. It is not clapping for the president. Un-American plus government shutdown part 2 next on Politics Unplugged.
At Subway restaurants, every day is always a great day. And now it's even better with our Fresh Fit Sub of the Day. Every day of the week, get a different 6-inch sub for just $3.49. Each with 24 grams of whole grains, 2 servings of veggies, and 400 calories or less. Enjoy subs like turkey breast on Wednesday and rotisserie-style chicken on Saturday. So you can make a good choice today and every day with our $3.49 Fresh Fit Sub of the Day. Only at Subway restaurants.
Hi, I'm Ron Hess from the new East Phoenix Window Depot at 44th Street in McDowell. If you're looking for new windows and doors, the Window Depot is your one-stop Phoenix warehouse. At the Window Depot, we have Phoenix area's largest selection of in-stock vinyl windows and interior and exterior doors at the Valley's best prices. The Window Depot is now your choice for kitchen cabinets and granite countertops. Come in today. Our prices can't be beat. The Window Depot. Windows, doors, and now cabinets.
Thank you for calling Lerner & Rowe Injury Attorneys.
Thank you for calling Lerner & Rowe Injury Attorneys.
Thank you for calling Lerner & Rowe Injury Attorneys.
Hurt in a wreck and need to speak to an attorney? We're available 24/7. Get the help when you need it right now. I'm attorney Kevin Rowe.
And here you have a banh mi-inspired fried chicken sandwich. You'd never find this at a fast food restaurant. It's a good thing.
Is that right, Martha? Why don't you try my Asian fried chicken sandwich? Made with crispy fried chicken strips, crunchy Asian slaw, and a gochujang mayo, all on a toasted baguette.
Security, get him!
What, you afraid of a little competition?
You want to go to war with me, Jack? Do you really?
Oh my gosh, what? I can't smell. I can't smell. Introducing my food truck-inspired sandwiches, only at Jack in the Box.
There's a meaning no one knows, waiting to be set free.
So what's the empty suitcase for?
The grand prize trophy. I was born to be somebody.
Do you know what I love about Louisiana?
Probably my cooking.
I love the flavors that come out of here.
Have you tasted my cooking?
Have you tasted Popeye's sweet heat butterfly shrimp? They start out a little sweet with my shortbread flavor, then comes a little heat.
You bread spicy shrimp and sweet shortbread?
I do. You can grab 8 shrimp plus a side and a biscuit for just $5. Or mix in some tenders with my surf and turf.
You are good, Annie.
Not half as good as my shrimp.
Join Heather Moore and Brandon Lee. Weeknights only on 3TV.
And welcome back to Politics Unplugged. It's now time to talk it out with our partners from First Strategic. With us today, Marcus Dellatino and Barry Dillon. Guys, let's just get right into this. We're about a little over a month into this session, getting close to that benchmark here. Let's talk about education. Governor, is he getting what he wants right now? Is everything moving smoothly down at the Capitol?
Well, obviously they're a little behind schedule because we had a special session on the opiate addiction issue, and that was certainly a win for the governor. And then we had the Don Shooter episode, so that slowed things down. So we're a little behind schedule. But when it comes to education, we're not going to know until the budget gets released. And I know that those discussions are beginning, but I would expect by the time that the budget passes that we'll have some significant movement on the education.
Yeah, and more calls for more money. A lot of lawmakers are saying it's just not there. What will be the #1 accomplishment in education coming out of this session?
Well, I think what they maybe can add, as our previous guest was talking to, what they might be able to do with Proposition 301 and both prolong it and or add to the sales tax, increase it a little bit to cover some of the shortfalls. I think that would be a big deal.
Okay. Another big issue this week is the government shutdown, Part 2. I think we'll survive this one.
Did it really shut down? If we were asleep when it happened, did it really shut down?
Yeah, if the government shuts down in the woods and no one is around it here.
Anyone heard it or not.
But they did pass a 2-year stopgap measure. It's about $300 billion in more spending over the next couple of years and whatnot. Let's start with you, Marcus. Republican. For years, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm old enough to remember Republicans talking about not adding more to the deficit, but they're fine with that.
That's so passé. That's like so 2010.
That was old Republicans.
You know, you saw it actually last night, and I think Mr. Biggs, Congressman Biggs, voted against it. Rand Paul voted against it. If you look at sort of the more conservative members of the caucus, they voted against the spending bill. And this goes back to, you know, there is a problem within the Republican Party about spending. And the question is the spending okay if it's for the project I want? And the answer for traditional old Republicans is no more spending. But we're seeing, you know, compromise, I guess, if you will, to get this budget
Senator McCain
passed.
was very happy about the amount, though, that was funded for the military. I mean, I did see that tweet. So that was one thing that really got accomplished, I think, from his perspective and an Arizona perspective, is that now that the sequester, now that they have a budget, the sequester is over, and so the budgets aren't going to hit. They're not going to run out when they hit the top.
All right, and you know, before the break, we did play a soundbite from President Trump, who was in Ohio, and he was talking about the lack of enthusiasm coming from Democrats during his State of the Union speech, suggesting that maybe not clapping for him was treason. Now, Arizona Senator Jeff Flake, obviously a big critic, he isn't shy, holding back. You know, he had something to say about that. I want to play that for you right now.
I've seen the president's most ardent defenders use the now weary argument that the president's comments were meant as a joke, just sarcasm, only tongue-in-cheek. But treason is not a punchline, Mr. President.
Now, Barry, is this something that's really serious, or is Senator Flake just don't have a sense of humor?
No, I think it's just typical. It's typical of this reality show that we live in. It doesn't. He clapped for himself, first of all.
Sure.
So throughout the entire speech. So I don't know why he was so worried about everyone else clapping, because he was doing plenty. But no, I think it's just more of this, unreal reality show that we're living in under the Trump presidency.
Yeah, but he is the president of the United States. Even if he's joking about something like this, he's got to understand, or people are going to take this as this isn't joking. This might be something more serious, correct?
Well, and that sort of goes to my point. I think he doesn't have the best delivery. And the reason is because he's not a comedian, but his delivery stinks. And so there's no way to tell whether it's in humor or not. And it gets cleared up the next day by his communications officer who says he's joking.
Let's play the White House response to that right now.
Honestly, I'm not going to respond directly to Senator Flake's comments. I don't really care what Senator Flake has to say. I don't think his constituents do either, and I think that's why his numbers are in the tank. The president was clearly joking with his comments.
Marcus?
I think it goes, this is my exact point. You're depending on your communications office to clear up something that happened the day before, instead of if he was on the dais and said, look, I'm kidding, it's a joke, everybody laugh, we'd be in a different situation. You wouldn't even have the questioning the next day.
Would it do better? I mean, obviously the president, White House, not exactly interested in hearing some of the concerns about some of those comments and whatnot. Would it serve him better if he took those a little bit more serious?
Well, yeah, but I don't think he will. I don't think he has any inclination to drop back. That's who we're stuck with.
But it's also a problem. But back to the original issue. This issue's been developing for a while during the State of the State, and there's got to be some issue at some time under some president where both parties can agree, both parties can stand up and clap.
Yeah,
at least no one shouted him down like happened with our previous president. And that's the other thing too is this is somehow, I think, in Trump's mind, this is all Obama's fault anyway. So just like everything else.
All right, moving on to another issue here with the president, we did see another big shakeup over there. As Rob Porter was let go amid accusations from domestic violence and whatnot. This is a big deal. Is this something that's going to become more important here in the days weeks?
Have some wheels on it, as they say. I think so, and I think that the story largely revolves around General Kelly, the Chief of Staff's sort of position on the issue before the termination, and it's an odd story in that he's well respected by his former bosses, by the party structure, and nobody expected this to come out from Portman. I mean, he would be the last character.
Wouldn't this have come out? Wouldn't this have come out during a vetting process? If the White House, do you think they know? And if not, should they have known?
The FBI had it, so it did come out in the vetting process, and General Kelly has not done anything about it. And I think it just goes to show the rot in the White House is that Trump just sucks the ethics and morals out of anyone that he touches. Because you're right, General Clark has he has a great reputation, but he's never been a chief of staff to a reality star either.
How did Orrin Hatch not know any of this, though? That's sort of a bizarre circumstance involved in this.
And I just learned today that Jared Kushner hasn't completely finished his
we're going to have to cut it off there. We're going to have to cut it off right there because that is all the time we have for Politics Unplugged this week. Be sure to join us next week for more Politics Unplugged. Good night.